Hello, everybody. I hope your day has been a bit more cogent and involved than mine has. Mine has been an absolute wreck. It's been crazy from the beginning to the end. But I hope that we can have some time here in the calm eye of the storm and chill out, talk a little bit about some history, and hopefully the stream won't crash 19 times. But we'll see. And if it does go down, just bear with me. I'll try to poke buttons on my end and get everything back up and running as fast as possible. Hey, Steph Anomaly. And hey, Grathar. I'm sorry, I forgot to say hey to everybody in the craziness that was getting this stream off the ground. Talk about Hellgates. That's nice and relaxing. Hey, everybody. Let's talk about hell. Oh, man. Good times. Welcome, everybody. Yes, Hellgates. By the way, our international stamps came in, so tomorrow we should have international mail going out. So our back door is the gate to hell. Yeah, it's ridiculously hot outside in South Mississippi, and the air conditioner in the building that I work in went out, and it was about 85 degrees inside. So crazy times, right? All right, so this is Adventures in History. We talk about historical stuff. We make bad puns. We joke around. We make pop cultural references. I talk probably more than I should, but people show up, so I feel like I'm getting positive reinforcement for my particular negative activity. But I don't know. I think I have fun. I hope everybody else has fun. I hope everybody is having a good day, and I say that honestly. I grouse a lot about my days, but I need to keep things in perspective. The world is not just me. There are a lot of other people out there that have it a lot worse off than I do, and I need to make sure that I try to keep that point of view going. Right. So, yeah, it's viewer request night, and the viewers have requested a good one. The Gates of Hell, or Portals to the Other Side, or Underworld access routes. I could have gone with Highway to Hell as the song, the pun for tonight's, but I figured that was a little bit too much. So I played a little bit with the Dell. So it's Hello from the Other Side, which actually kind of makes sense if you know the song, because it's like Hello from the. You know what I'm talking about. I won't sing it. I can't sing nearly as well as Adele can. Hey, Fid, how's it going? So, welcome everybody. I love any sort of lore mythology about the Underworld, so I'm excited. Awesome! We're actually going to talk a little bit about what's up with this whole Underworld and afterlife thing to begin with, because, I mean, we could just go straight to talking about holes in the ground and caves and junk, but I thought it would be a little bit more involved, I guess, to actually give a little bit of reasoning behind this stuff. Not just, here's a bunch of pictures, look! Which, I mean, there are quite a few pictures tonight, and places that I've been, and now that I realize it, I don't have the adventure hat with me. I'll have to run and get it in just a second. So, hope everybody had a good weekend, good start to the week. I got ant bitten. I have ant bites all over me. I don't know if you can see those. There's some on my arm right there. There's some on my hand. There's one right there. I was weed eating in the backyard, and I hit a weed eater into an ant bed, and it threw ants everywhere. And I also ended up inadvertently weed eating my ankle, so I have nice little weed eater marks. Yeah, they're fire ants. They're pretty bad. Cargo religions have some interesting stuff regarding those portals. Yeah, afterlife. Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and start. Anybody have any questions or comments off the top? Anybody have anything that you want to do? Yeah, the chaos and the carnage of a 6'3" man running around in the backyard with a weed eater covered in fire ants. Oh, thank you. The adventure hat has been delivered to me by my loving and beautiful wife, Brittany. So now we have the adventure hat and a puppy. Do you want to come up here and say hello? Do you want to come up here? No, she's being persnickety. No puppy for you at the moment. Anyway, that sounds like hell, so it's appropriate. Yeah, I've been covered in anti-itch medicine all day, and it's not helping completely, but it is what it is, and we've got some fun stuff to talk about, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Puppy and the chicken. No, she's doesn't have the chicken with her. She's staring out the window at the backyard. It's still light enough outside that she can see if there are any squirrels out there. She hates squirrels. For some reason, they are just her mortal enemies. I was trying to get the dog to deliver the hat, but it wasn't working. Yeah, fire ants are a thing, and if I could stop itching them, they would heal faster. But I'm just like, I need to be like when I was young and had chicken pox, my mom put mittens on me so that I couldn't scratch. Yeah, so there were those. Nobody gets chicken pox anymore. There's a vaccine against it now, and all the kids in my classroom that I teach, I'm like, how many of you have had chicken pox? And like 2 of them are like, me. If you would have asked my college class, how many of you had chicken pox? It'd been like everybody. There might have been 2 people that have like, no, I've never caught them before. But this is science for you. It does stuff like that. All right, we're actually going to start now. I've sort of hemmed and hawed around long enough. Let's go. So before we actually talk about the concept of a gate to the underworld, we really do need to start off talking about just the concept of afterlife. And I realize that's really small for you all to read, and I'll blow it up here in just a second. So what is this whole concept of the idea that there is something on the other side to begin with? And this, of course, is one of the biggest religious questions that has ever and still exists in the history of the world. My wife and I just watched a movie on Netflix a couple of days ago called The Discovery. It's got a lot of very well-known actors and actresses in it. It's a pretty decent movie. If you have Netflix, you should check it out. But it deals with this concept of what happens after we die. And this is apparently a question that has been on the minds of human beings for over 100,000 years, based on some of the stuff that we have been able to determine from burial sites. And we actually see Neanderthals burying their dead as well. And this goes back to somewhere around 130,000 years ago. 130,000 BC. And you have to ask yourself this question, and there's still a lot of debate about exactly what a lot of this stuff means. Because, 130,000 years ago, we didn't have writing. We don't have anybody that is a reliable eyewitness to any of this stuff. We have to examine the remains that have been left behind, and there aren't many. Neanderthal burial sites are very rare. I can only think of 3 or 4. I know that there are more, but I can only think of a few just off the top of my head. And we have to sort of start asking ourselves exactly why the afterlife has anything to do with a burial site. What does this mean? And the sort of prevailing theory is that there's not really any reason to spend the time burying somebody if there wasn't some reason to do it, right? So let us sort of use our historical imaginations and go back in time to 130,000 BC, when we are completely nomadic hunter-gatherers. We're moving around in groups of maybe 150 to maybe 200 as a maximum, and that's an extreme maximum. Most of the groups are 100, 150 individuals. Hey Daria, how's it going? And welcome.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus. Spartacus.
Streamlabs is all junked up and weird. Okie dokie. Thank you, Spartacus. Yeah, Kyle, the live notification is probably messed up because me going live was messed up. It took me 3 different tries to actually get the stream up and running. My internet's doing something really, really weird right now. So I don't know exactly what's going on. But thank you for the subscription. I really do appreciate that. It really does mean a lot that people would consider supporting me in that way. I do not take that lightly. I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. I always assumed it was because they had a hard time understanding and accepting that you stop existing when you die, but I could be super wrong. No, that's actually that's part of it, right? So the idea here is, even to think that thought, though, that idea that we stop existing when we die, that thought has a lot of sort of religious and afterlife connotations, right? Because that seems to indicate that we understand that there's something fundamentally different between a live human and a dead human, right? Or a live Neanderthal and a dead Neanderthal. So what is the difference? You know, is it just simply this thing is alive and moving around and breathes and this thing isn't? Or could there maybe be something different? And we also have to remember that the human brain, and to a larger extent probably the Neanderthal brain, is sort of wired to ask these questions and try to figure out the answers, right? Human beings, Homo sapiens, are problem solvers. We have a really big portion of our brain that is designed at sorting and analyzing data. It's one of the biggest things that separates us from other animals, is this concept of really deep problem solving skills. So if we have this instance, you know, we have our friend Jimmy and Jimmy dies, and then some weird stuff happens that we can't explain. Could that be Jimmy's spirit? You know, does that mean that there's part of Jimmy coming around? And we see a lot of this stuff going way back in time. And the burial part especially is important to think about, because with these people way back in time, spend the calories to dig a hole and place a body specifically and include things in that grave and then cover it back up. That extent of burning calories has to be justified, because remember, these people don't have large surpluses of food, right? They don't have big places that they can go just to go buy. They can't go to Walmart and buy food, or Sam's Club, or wherever you go. They don't have the luxury of wasting effort, if that makes any sense, right? So if they do something, they're not doing it for a fairly no reason. So if they are going to take time to bury somebody and arrange their body so that they look like they're maybe asleep or something like that, we've got to start asking ourselves why they would do that. And this is going to start opening up the door to, they might believe that there's something on the other side, that death isn't the final sort of page in the book. There's actually a lot of debate about why the underworld is considered down, right? So you bury the bodies in the ground, right? That's definitely part of it. Because when we decay, we turn back into dirt. That's part of it. But there's a lot of imagery that's involved with this too. Underground is dark, and darkness is, of course, tied to death. And there's that fear aspect of things. So it could be that there's, you know, the darkness of the earth under the ground. is tied to death because you lose your light. There's also this this big fireball in the sky that we can watch move around, and it seems like every day this fireball is born, and it moves across the sky, and then it goes down into the ground and dies. Of course, we're talking about the sun here. So maybe that's part of it too. There are a lot of old myths that believe that the sun was actually either a god or the chariot of a god, and sometimes that god died at the end of the day. Like in Aztec mythology, he would die and go down into the underworld, and if he was not fed blood, he would not return in the morning. And there's an Egyptian myth of the sun god who sort of goes into the underworld and has to fight his way through the underworld and only emerges victorious on the other side. So based on the sort of mythology that we have and with these symbols that we have, we can sort of parse together that the underworld is under because of all of these things. But just to be honest, we don't 100% know. You want to launch your dead body or your live body into space. You can't breathe up there, just as a reminder. There's a company that turns you into a diamond after you die and launches you into space. That seems expensive. I'm kind of the same way when I go down at night. I require a blood sacrifice before I get up in the morning. I do not think it's them doing the launching, but rather renting a little space thing. And oh yeah, okay. Even if we don't know for sure, those are pretty good ideas. Yeah. And see, that's the thing. It's okay to admit that we don't know everything about the past. And that bothers some people. There are a lot of people that get really, really bothered by the concept of historians saying, I don't know. Which I think is fine. If I don't know something, I will admit that I don't know something. Why, bluster your way through? And it's so long ago in history, before we had writing and before we had a lot of real understanding about what these people believed and how they lived. I don't think we can know. And one thing to remember as well, by the time we do get to the period of writing, when we get to Sumer and Mesopotamian cultures with cuneiform and we get hieroglyphics in Egypt, that is already about 97 or so, or 95 or so thousand years after human beings had started burying their dead. So we can't even look at those early myths and really get a full idea of what people thought prior to those myths being standardized. Because, 95,000 years of unrecorded history where all we have to go on are the physical remains that we find, that's a lot of empty space. And it does mean that we get to research more. And I find that fascinating. I don't look at that as a negative. I see that as a big positive. That means that people like me that are interested in this stuff have stuff to do, and we can provide potential value to the world. Not just, reiterating the same stuff that we know over and over again, but expanding the concepts of what we know and working on how we get to this stuff. So if we accept that there is an afterlife and we accept that they thought that under the ground had something to do with dead, what's up with the concept of hell? Because in the Judeo-Christian world, hell is the bad place, right? It's under the ground. But not all underworlds are hell. In Sumerian and Akkadian mythology, some of the earliest mythology from Mesopotamia, the underworld is a place called Kur. And it's just a place where dead people go. Everybody gets treated the same. You have to deal with this goddess called Neti. I've got a little statue here that I can show you. This is the underworld goddess that protects the gates to the underworld. And her name is Neti, unfortunately, like Neti Pot. Which I think there's got to be some sort of joke there. about banishing things to the or from the dark places. I'll let you all work on that one. But Kur is an interesting place because basically what happens in Sumerian mythology is you die and everybody goes to this place, and basically your soul turns into dust and everything is very dry, and you could only drink if your family gave you a drink offering. And it was actually very common in a lot of these places to have like a tube that went down into the grave for you to pour libation offerings down to your dead spirits of the ancestors so that they could drink. I felt like I was dying when I used a neti pot, so well, there we go, close enough. But Kur isn't a bad place. It isn't a place of torment. It isn't a place of punishment. It's where everybody goes. It's just a place for the dead. And there are actually a lot of ancient underworlds that don't have any sort of positive or negative assessment. They're just sort of there. They are the abode of the dead. Another one that I can talk to you about. So again, Kur is Sumerian first and then adopted by the Akkadians. Gotta water your dead. Yeah, right. There's another place called Sheol, which is from Old Hebrew, the original sort of earliest versions of Judaism. They believed in this place called Sheol, which is just most kind of translate this to mean the grave. It's a place where you go after you're dead and you're just dead. And the earliest versions of Hebrew religion and Judaism did not apparently have any delineation between the good place and the bad place. Now, later on, they're going to develop ideas of good place and bad place, but Sheol is just a place for the dead to go. They go to the grave. You know this one. Cool beans. I don't want to expose too much of your history, but I suspect your schooling had something to do with that one, huh? Yeah. So that's a Hebrew thing, but it's not even just what we might consider Semitic or Near Eastern. There's also this place called Yomi, which is basically the Japanese version of the underworld. It's a place of the dead. We'll actually come back to this one in a little bit. There's a really cool gate to Yomi that we'll get to show pictures of. But this is, again, it's just a place where dead spirits go. It's not a place where they're tormented or tortured. There's not really demons eating on them or anything like that. It's just where you go when you die. So there is an idea that not all places underworld in the afterlife are bad, right? There's not even a universal concept that the underworld is permanent. So if you look at a lot of religions that believe in reincarnation, for example, Hinduism has seven different versions of the underworld, and none of them are permanent. You might spend some time there because you did some stuff that was not so great, but eventually you're going to get out of there and have the opportunity to move forward. So if you remember Hinduism, the ultimate goal of most Hindu faiths is this thing called moksha, where your personal spirit, which is called Atman, regains unity with Brahman, the sort of universal spirit. And they believe in a cycle of reincarnation. So you can spend some time in the underworld, but you're not stuck there forever. You eventually get out after you've sort of done your penance and move around. And not all of the versions of the Hindu underworld are even bad. Some of them are just kind of like empty, kind of shiftless sort of places where it's really dark or really dry. I mean, there's some demons in Hinduism. There's like some legit torture places too. Like purgatory. Yeah, similar to purgatory. And there's an Inca we've talked about the Inca. So I tried to sort of play on concepts that we've covered a little bit. If you haven't seen all the episodes, you by no means have to go back and watch all of them. But I know that I have a lot of sort of recurring visitors and guests in the room, and I really do appreciate you all for showing up. So I try to pick things that we have seen a little bit before. The Inca afterlife in Underworld is called Ukupacha. And there's actually a neat little diagram that I can show you here. Buddhism touches on the concept of temporary purgatory too. Bardo. Yeah. Right. So again, there's this idea that you can go to sort of the purgatory or underworld place, but you're not there forever. So this here, did I need to zoom that back out? Come on, Nettie, go away. There we go. So the Inca universe is basically broken into 3 realms that we call pachas. So Hanan Pacha is the sort of the sky realm where you have all of the stars and the sun and the moon and the sort of high god deities. Then you have Kai Pacha, which is the land of everything that is alive. But the underworld and the sort of lower form is this thing called Ukupacha. And this was a weird place that you spent some time in, but you didn't have to stay there forever. The Inca believed in a reincarnation as well. The thing about Ukupacha that's pretty interesting, though, is they really did think that it was very, very close to the surface. And any sort of big digging event could potentially disturb Ukupacha. So if you went out and dug a really big hole, you might end up disturbing the dead in the afterlife. So a lot of the Inca people were really sort of superstitious about caves, any sort of big gaps in the earth or any big digging sort of things, because you gotta not disturb the dead. That's that they're over there for a reason, and you don't want to get them into the back into the real world, because that would get real freaky, and not something anybody wants to deal with, right? So one more of these sort of temporary underworlds is a place called Naraka, which shows up a little bit in Hinduism as one of their versions of the afterlife, but specifically what I want to talk about in this particular version of Naraka is for the religion Jainism. And I discovered a couple of days ago that there's not a lot of people that know about Jainism. And I'm not trying to say that you all don't know about Jainism, but I was talking to some people that I know, and they didn't really have a lot of knowledge about Jainism. So I'm actually going to do a stream on that one in a couple of weeks. Jainism is a religion that sort of diverges from Hinduism, or actually chronologically in the time that we've been talking about in Adventures in History on Thursday nights. So it actually fits chronologically, and I think that it'll be a fun stream to talk about. They're a really interesting group of people. They're well, I won't go into it right now, but they have a version of hell called Naraka, and it is not so great. It's full of lots of things torturing you. This is a sort of mural about being tortured in Naraka. So up here in the corner, you have people being boiled in giant vats while animals bite and peck at them. You have people that are demons chopping off the head of you and impaling you on spikes, celebrating Jane, the hero of Canton. The man there called Jane. You see people here being impaled, always with the birds. You see people constantly fighting, being killed. So in Jainism, Naraka is the bad underworld. And the good thing about Naraka is that it is very much a temporary place, though temporary in the scheme of the universe. Some people might spend like 100,000 years in Naraka if they're just really bad at it. Looks like an early Bosch painting. Yeah, like Hieronymus Bosch. That stuff is trippy. Worst summer camp advert ever. Yeah, come to Naraka. Have birds peck at your skin. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to go to that summer camp. So even though Naraka is full of the bad stuff and full of not good times, it is temporary. You do get out of it. So I hope that what I'm trying to get across here is sticking, that just because certain versions of human culture think that the underworld is the bad place, the Buddhist unit for temporary is aeons. Yeah, it could be like thousands and thousands of years, right? But in the scheme of an eternal soul, I guess that's kind of a blip in the radar there, right? I'm knocking stuff over. I am so clumsy. Trying to take a sip out of the water. Anyway. Yeah, eons. Lots of time. But there are also underworlds that are just purely good. If you're familiar with Greek mythology, you probably know about the Elysian Fields. This is the sort of paradise after you die. This is the good part of the Greek underworld. Now, there's another bad part of the Greek underworld called Tartarus. But we sort of understand that there are underworlds that are the bad place. Tartarus is the bad part of the Greek underworld, but the Elysian Fields are the good part of that stuff, where people go. You go hang out, and you get to feast, and you get to hang out with your family, and there's even conjugal visits in the Elysian Fields. I won't go too much further into that. You're not going to have kids in the afterlife, but there are benefits to being in the Elysian Fields. So this is an underworld, and it is ruled by the god of the underworld, Hades, but it's the good place. So in the Greek world, the good place isn't up in the sky. It's down under the ground. And this is not the only underworld that's good. In Celtic mythology, especially Irish mythology, you see a place called Mag Mell, which is the good place. Tell me more about these conjugal visits, please. Speaking of the good place, that show is great. I like it as well. I haven't seen the final season of it yet, but my wife and I have watched the first 3 seasons, I think. That we really like it. It's funny stuff. I like that show quite a bit. So what is Mag Mell? Well, in Celtic mythology, there is an island, and it's off the coast of Ireland. It's really, really far away, and it's ruled over by this god who was originally a king, but then sort of went on to be a god, and his name is Manannán mac Lir. And this is a modern statue of him. I looked really, really hard to try to find an image of him that was ancient, but I couldn't do so. But what you see him doing here is sort of this welcoming pose. He's on a boat because, again, Mag Mell is out on an island. So to get there, you have to be ferried there. And this is where only the brave and the proud and the strong and the wise and the good go. And he greets you with open arms, and you get to sort of hang out in the good place. Where's the rest of the boat? It's a statue. You just use your imagination for the rest of the boat. This is pretty heavily influenced by a lot of the Greek mythology, as you might expect, with the boats and the crossing water and going to the other side. I'm on a boat. Yeah, exactly. Lazy sculptor. Yeah, if it was Daria, there would be the whole boat there, and she would actually individually sculpt the nails and hammer them through the sculpted boards because you don't cut corners in Daria art. Every one of that guy's hairs would be individually shaded. Not to be mistaken with Tir na Nog. Right, which is another version of like the fairy power world where weird stuff goes on in the supernatural realm. And the boat would have engravings. At least we all are friends and know each other, right? We could joke around with each other about this stuff. I got my flippy floppies. That's my favorite part. I really enjoy flip-flops, by the way. Fun fact about Shane. Shane hates socks. Really hates socks. I much prefer walking around barefoot or flip-flops, which are culturally acceptable bare feet, basically. Yeah, so Underworlds and Other Lands are different. Arcadian referenced Tir na Nog here, which is another Celtic realm. It's not the earthly realm. It's where a lot of other spiritual stuff goes on. It's where the Fae live, and you have monsters and such that live over that way. And some of the gods spend some time over there. Also, a very brief topic of a TV show in either the late 90s or early hundreds called Mystic Knights of Tir na Nog. Maybe the person that commissioned it was cheap and was like, yeah, we could just have a little bit of boat. Shane hates socks almost as much as he hates Comcast. That is an accurate statement. So Mogmel, there you go. Place for the cool people to go and hang out after they're dead in the Celtic world. One more. There is an Egyptian version of the Underworld called Aru. And it is very frequently referred to as the Field of Reeds. And I just skipped past it. So it looks like this. There are a few images that you can find of this, typically on on tomb paintings, but usually you just hear it referred to in writing. But it's pretty normal life. You go there, there's always abundance. This is where you get to hang out if your soul is good. There's a pretty famous Egyptian sort of ritual. Once you die, your soul sort of passes through this journey, and it arrives at this ceremony where the goddess that sort of runs the ceremony weighs your heart against a feather, and if your heart is pure and weighs less than the feather, you can go to Aru. If not, you end up at this other place called Duat, which is definitely the bad place. Definitely the place where the demons eat you. But Aru is the good place, and you get to hang out and, live your life, and it's the weather's nice, and like I said, there's always abundance. There is, just carrying on in the afterlife like nothing really happened. Yeah. But it's definitely the good place. There is an understood concept that this is the place that you want to go. You do not want to go to the Duat. The Duat is the place where angry souls live, where people's souls chew on each other, where their demons will eat you. What if you weigh more than a duck? Well, that means that you're a witch. Technically, if you weigh more than a duck, you are not a witch. Only if you weigh equal to a duck, you are a witch. Thank you, Fid, for that reference. That was a good one. So, even if we have underworlds, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that they're permanent. And it doesn't even mean that there are differentiations between good places and bad places. So I know that wasn't necessarily the gates to hell part, but I really felt like that was something that we needed to include before we get to this, the sort of gates to the underworld part. OG Peely, thanks for the follow. And I hope that I pronounced your name correctly. If I didn't, please correct me. Let me know how to properly address you? I always have to guess. It might be Og Peely. I went with OG because I like rap music, and OG stands for Original Gangster. Have you ever seen the duck bridge fail? Oh, now you all are talking about ducks and bridges. But can't you not also build a bridge out of stone? Welcome, OG Peely. This is Adventures in History. I'm Shane McInnes, and we're talking about gates to the underworld and various types of underworlds. So feel free to ask questions. We also have a Discord if you want to hang around over there. Post memes, read some history news, make general comments, sarcastic jokes, whatever you would like. So there are lots of different concepts of the underworld, and it's not just hell, right? Hell is a very Western concept, and it comes from Judeo-Christian backgrounds with lots of influences from other places. So there's that. Now, in the ancient world, there are lots of concepts as to where these places are located. And some of them are very, very vague. You know, sometimes when you read, like, for example, Mogmel, it's this big island that you have to kind of die and go under to go out to get to. But how do you get there? Like, where is the actual island? They're like, that way. Just keep going that way. How do I know when I get there? Just keep going that way. So it's like not really understood where it is. Sometimes the underworld is located under specific rivers. Like, oh yeah, that river is the somewhere in that riverbed is the gate to the underworld. Sometimes it's under the water even. You know, like if you go out to sea and there's this giant vortex that sucks you down into this underworld place, but you don't really have a location for it. And in the case of like Ukupacha, the Inca underworld, it could literally be anywhere. Like if you dig a hole anywhere, you might end up in the underworld. Does that mean it's everywhere? Not necessarily. But does that mean it's big and sort of scattered out? Maybe. Who knows? Just don't go digging holes. So there's not always a physical location, which means that these concepts of having locations that are the gates to the underworld are actually not very common. It's not like every ancient culture that you run across has a designated location which is the gate to the underworld. Hey, Joey. Yeah, well, it could have also been that the notifications are all jacked up because I've had to start the stream about 5 times now. So, cheers to that. Joey, also, we got in our international stamps, and I hope to send out international mail tomorrow. So, call 311 before digging. Yeah, right. You might end up in the afterlife. So, if not every culture has a physical location, are there things that we can look at that can help us sort of delineate where we might go looking for an afterlife? And it actually does turn out that there are a couple of places and sort of criteria that you might see if you're looking for a gate to the afterlife. Anywhere where there are sulfur deposits close to the surface. Sulfur is always related to the afterlife. So in a lot of these places where we have actual gates to hell, you're going to see sulfur. Also, places like thermal springs, places where there's really, really hot water. In Japan, there's actually a thermal spring that's called the Pool of Hell. And part of that is because the water is red, but it's also because it's like ridiculously hot. And people are like, there might be hell under there. And there's also another place that I'll show you in Turkey where some hot springs are located right next to a gate to hell. Also, areas that are seismically active. So if you see places where There are earthquakes. Oh, good. I'm going to leave the kids in Yellowstone then when we go. You know, I didn't actually look into that. I probably should have looked into see if there are any North American mythologies that look at Yellowstone as a potential gate to the underworld. I'm going to have to go dig that up now. So Los Angeles is built right on top of a Hellgate. Well, didn't we learn that in Buffy? Because isn't Sunnydale just supposed to be Los Angeles? So seismically active areas, places where the ground will open up in fissures, right? I don't see why not. People basically melt, disintegrate if they fall in. Right, those tar pits are no joke. They aren't any joke. Seismically active areas, and finally volcanoes. The good old-fashioned volcano, right? Gate to the underworld. There's a big one in Iceland. We haven't talked about Icelandic mythology or Iceland very much at all, but there's a big volcano in Iceland that is considered to be a portal to the underworld. You also see the sort of stereotypical throw the young woman into the volcano to appease the gods sort of thing. That's definitely part of this underworld concept. Volcanoes they shoot out fire and they spit out magma. Liquid hot magma. Volcanoes equal hell pimples. That's a bad case of acne. So let's actually talk about some specific hellgates. And we're going to start with a place in Greece called the Necromantion. Necromantion. And I will put on the adventure hat because I was lucky enough to visit the Necromantion, one of Tom Hanks' most underrated movies. Yeah, exactly. I actually quite like that movie. So the Necromantion is in a place in Greece, and I've been there, and let me show you photos. So again, that's Aru. Crazy thing about the Necromantion, it turns out that this site is got a lot of religious importance, and when Christianity took over Greece, they built a church on top of this place. No, that door is actually a door to church. I'll show you the door to hell in just a minute. So the Necromantion is an oracle to the dead. And if you have read the Odyssey and you know the story of Odysseus consulting with the dead spirits, he is supposedly going to this location. It's in Greece. It's not far from the location where Odysseus's kingdom would have been. And now it's got a big church on top of it. So the church is actually built, and you can see some of the much, much older ruins here below it. And I've got a better picture here. These walls would have been part of the original sort of shrine or temple. If you go down this walkway right here and sort of around a little corner, you can actually go down into this giant big friggin' hole in the ground, which looks like this. And the picture is bad because the lighting is horrible down there, but there you go. So this is actually directly under the church, and was considered by the Greek people to be a place where one could go to commune with the dead. They would have had an entire priesthood at that location that would have helped you make your offerings to the dead, and they would have had priests that would have interpreted any sort of message you received. This is a pretty old place. It goes all the way back to the Bronze Age era of Greece. Probably was first considered somewhat religious in nature around the early Mycenaean period. So this is a pretty old place. The church, by the way, is actually quite nice on the inside for a small little wooden or stone church, but I don't think it's still in use. Thank you for the fruit basket. That should appease them. Yeah, really. But that's the Necromantion. And I could show you where this place is on the Google Earth here. I've been using pictures and I haven't actually shown you this. I wonder if I can find it. Let's see if this shows where it is. It's over here. Hey, that looks like it's actually correctly located. Hey, that's actually it. Cool. So this is the site itself. You drive up this hill. There's the church, but you can see the larger remnants of the older structures. It's on top of a really big hill. It's got a beautiful view. I love Google Earth so much. One of the coolest things ever designed by humans. So it's right over here. If you ever go to Greece, it's a little bit out of the way, but that side of Greece is actually very, very cheap. Doesn't have a lot of toll roads, and full of some of the cooler people that I met when I was in Greece. So that's the Necromantion. But that's not the only place that I've been. And the adventure hat continues because we have yet to talk about the Plutonion. Aha. Now, the Plutonion is in modern-day Turkey. It's at a place called Akaraka. I doubt I'll be able to find that on Google Earth. Like the god Pluto. Exactly. So, this is the sort of foundation stones. This is Stacy, by the way, who was on the trip with me to Turkey, along with another research partner and colleague of mine. So this would have been the sort of basis of, not the dog Pluto, no, the god Pluto. So if you see this big temple, then you go just to the other side of this. So like down this hill and look back towards this location, you can see these caves. Now, I think it's hilarious that modern people have turned these caves into goat pens. Which also might make some people think goats are of the devil. I don't know if I can disagree with you. Goats are tasty, but they have weird pupils, and their eyeballs are funky looking, and I don't necessarily dig that. But this is the cave that was supposedly the gate to the underworld, and there was a temple to Hades. To Pluto and Persephone, where you could go make requests to those gods. And what's really neat about this, other than the cool cave and the really nice temple ruins, is that on the side of this hill, so if you kind of follow this hill around a little bit, there's a little cut right back here, you can find naturally occurring places in the side of the hill where there's this stinky yellow stuff. That stinky yellow stuff is sulfur, because the hill that the Plutonion is built upon is full of naturally occurring sulfur outcroppings. Because sulfur is related to the devil and to the underworld, and it stinks. I like goat. Goat's pretty good. Why not build a temple to Pluto there? Why not put goats there? So the Plutonion is in Akaraka. I'll see if I can zoom in here on Google Earth. Oh, is that going to take us there? I'll take you there. Hey, that looks right. Look-a there. Oh, that's the modern city. Yeah. So the modern city is there. To get to the temple, you actually have to go up this road right here and then get out and hike into this sort of valley right here. Fun fact, goat eyes can rotate in... Oh, I didn't need to know that. Oh. But thanks, Joey. Now that's going to like that. Yeah, I'm going to have to think about that when I'm trying to go to sleep tonight. Good times in the stream. So there's an oracle to Pluto for you. The last place. Fun fact: owls can't move their eyes, so they have to rotate their whole head. I did know that, mostly because my wife is a big bird watcher and ornithologist, and has taught me very, very many things about birds. One last place that I've been to, and then I have to take the hat off, is a place called Hierapolis, and in the modern day city is a place called Pamukkale in Turkey. But let me show you the photos. Kyle stole your fact. So, the ancient site of Hierapolis, and I say this with full understanding that I frequently use hyperbole. The ancient site of Hierapolis is, without hyperbole or any sort of exaggeration, one of the coolest ancient cities that I've been to. It is absolutely enormous. It has ruins from multiple different time periods, and many of them are in incredibly good shape. So this building right here is another one of these sort of temples to I'm losing my words. Good gracious. This is another Plutonion, but it's in Hierapolis. It's not the Plutonion. And so this would have been the sort of the flagstone region of the temple. But this little region right back here is the important spot. This is where the magic happens. So let's zoom in a little bit closer. This is the hole to the underworld, where you could actually go reach the dead, and stuff would tell you about things, and it looks small. Yeah, it's not so big. I guess ancient people thought that spirits didn't need so much, but you can also tell that it has been closed up. This stone right here is not original to the location. This has been done much more recently. You want to see what the underworld looks like? Because of course we took pictures inside of it. This is what the underworld looks like. There's just a big carved shaft that goes down an indiscriminately large amount, and people have thrown garbage in there. Yes, duh. As if I needed to ask. So this shaft goes down further than our flashes would reach. It's pretty friggin' deep. And it's pretty evident that there is a lot of stuff going on in this area, because just on the other side of the hill from that, you find these things. And I know this looks like a beach somewhere, but these are the hot springs of Pamukkale. And so it's true, people who throw trash in nature go to hell. Aww. But again, this is a region where you have sulfur, you have geothermic reaction, so there is that sort of tie with the ancient world, thinking that this is a place where you can get to hell. I can guarantee you that I can find Pamukkale. Yeah, it's a pretty big city. The restaurants there are not very impressive. Pamukkale is a modern-day tourist town. Here, by the way, is the big hot spring. You can see it. It's ridiculously big. And while we were there, this place was just crawling with tourists. The ancient site is actually this whole region right here. This whole big chunk of area is part of the ancient city site. It's absolutely enormous. But yeah, so there you go. There's Pamukkale for you. That is a big spring. It's really, really big. And the city is super touristy. And the hamburgers that they sell there are not good. that's another ancient hamburger story, or not ancient, but foreign hamburger story that I could have told. And I'll save that one in case somebody wants to hear one of those later on. So that is Hierapolis, ancient city where you could go hang out and commune with the dead. And lest you think the only places that we're going to talk about are in like the places that I've been. I haven't been to all of the ancient places where there are dead people. There's another place in Greece called Matapon. I have not been there. It's very, very difficult to get to. I did find, and you can Google Matapon and find a couple of sort of touristy pictures. I did find the actual cave entrance. So the story of Matapon is that way back in the day, the ancient Greeks in the region, and this is not far from Sparta, by the way. It's on a peninsula called the Mani Peninsula. It's Mani. Shane speaks Latin, been to Hellgates more than once. I've been to multiple Hellgates. Anyway, the story behind Matapon is that this big cave right here is actually the dwelling place of Hades, who was the god of the underworld in the Greek world. And you could go down into this cave if you were brave enough. Today, it's a tourist destination, and people wade around in there. Are those goat eyes reflecting in the dark? Maybe. There's something afoot. Suspicious, if you ask me. Yeah, you know. That's always me, being sneaky. Ooh. I'll show you where this is located. So, the Spartans actually built a whole ton of temples on top of this peninsula, and there were temples to all different kinds of gods. So just to kind of put this in perspective, this peninsula right here is what's called the Mani Peninsula. It's Mani. It is one of the most rugged and rural parts of all of Greece. I can be quite the hellion. Yeah, I guess so. Sparta again is located right here in this valley. But Matapon is all the way out on the end of this peninsula. And by the way, there is not a road that goes all the way out to this thing. You pretty much have to stop right about here and then walk all the way out to this cave, which is down here. This is the Cape of Matapon, but the cave is actually down around this area, which is a pretty honkin' long hike through very, very rugged terrain. Not something that I felt like making Mac in a lab coat do while we were there. Very, very rural place, but as you might expect, now has a church on top of it. So that looks like a game map trying to get to a cave to fight a boss. Yeah, right. We did a lot of hiking in Greece, but that's like extreme hiking. The ground in Greece is very, very rocky, and it is rolled ankle city. You don't want to walk through a lot of that stuff very quickly, especially if you're tired and it's really, really hot. But there's another one. Okay, so we're also not going to just stay in what we might consider the Mediterranean world, because there are Hellgates in other places around the world, including one in Japan. I didn't spell that right. Yeah, I did. Yomotsu Hirosaka. Okay. Yomotsu Hirosaka is a shrine in Japan, and I can show it to you. I found some actually pretty nice little pictures. So again, this is Matapon. So this is the entrance to the shrine. And there's a little bit of a hike involved here too. You go through this little gate right here, which is a torii, and then you sort of walk around the back side of this, and back in the woods here. Oh yeah, I would love to go to Japan. It is so on my list of places to go. But around the back of this, you find this little rock formation. And this rock right here, especially, is important because it plugs up the gate to hell. Group trip. I would love to go to Japan with you all. I would love to go anywhere right now that is not within driving distance from my house. My travel bug is kicking my butt right now, and it's worse because I know that I can't go anywhere. I will say this, and I've actually given this quite a bit of thought. Once the world of COVID is brought to bay, I want to do a sort of meetup trip, and I've got a couple of locations in mind. Well, I guess I can go ahead and share it. I'm not going to keep you on the hook, I guess. And this isn't like secret knowledge, but I would love to meet up with everybody in a city like St. Louis, which has an amazing amount of history, a whole bunch of culture. The St. Louis Museum of Art has a lot of really great paintings. You can go see like all kinds of stuff that you would recognize. There's a lot of different food there, and we could do some history stuff. St. Louis is great. I love St. Louis. Also, I'd love to go to DC and meet up with people. There are amazing things that we could go see and do in DC. Oh yeah. Look up St. Louis Museum of Art, Daria. There's a whole impressionist wing in there. There's a bunch of stuff that would be amazing, and you'd love it. We could spend all afternoon in the St. Louis Museum of Art. It is free. It's 100% free. So I think St. Louis would be cool. I think DC would be cool. We could go to New York. New York is a little bit more touristy, but there is the Met, and the Met has so much cool stuff in it. Including a whole bunch of history stuff that we could definitely nerd out about. But the great thing about these cities is we could go to these places, we could hang out, we could schedule some time where we could do stuff together. And if you wanted to go hang out and do your own thing, you'd go do your own thing, right? Because there's so much other stuff to do. Yeah, free museums. Things to think about. Definitely things to think about. So anyway, what's up with the Yomotsu Hirosaka Shrine? I showed you a big rock. Let me show you this big rock again because I feel like we may have been sidelined. Big old rock. This thing right here. It plugs up the afterlife. Or technically it plugs up the underworld. So there's this myth in Japan that involves the two sort of chief gods. And well, the chief god and chief goddess. Goddess's name is Izanami. God's name is Izanagi. And they are paired. And Izanami ends up passing away and goes to the afterlife in the underworld. The rock was removed in 2020. Son of a gun. Friggin' dad dang it. That's probably why 2020 is so crazy right now. I love your optimism, Shane, like there won't be a civil war after the election. Joey, I know that you said that in jest, but if you ask any of my friends that talk to me on a daily basis, I have been talking about Civil War II for about a year now. You were joking. Okay. They unleashed the... okay. I thought you had maybe done some Google foo and had figured out that they took the rock out, which would explain a lot of stuff. You know, the underworld is now open and it's spewing its chaos into our world. Anyway, so the story goes around that Izanami goes to the underworld and... I don't know if Civil War II... you might have been joking, and that's cool. And I don't think that Civil War II is so far off, but that's a whole other world, and not necessarily the discussion for today unless somebody really wants to. But Izanagi decides that he has to go get her, and he goes down to the underworld, and long story short, he sees her without her sort of lively makeup on, and she's very embarrassed, and she starts chasing him out of the underworld. And the only way that Izanagi can keep her from sort of bursting out of the underworld to come get him is by plugging up the hole with a big rock. So there's the entrance to Yomi, the Japanese underworld, and you can go visit that place. I'd love to go see it. It's on my list of places to go. One more, and then we will wrap up. Oh man, I can't think. And Tuna Chill Moon. I can't try to say it and type it at the same time. I'll just Tuna Chill Munknal. That sounds great, right? You definitely want to see that. Octoon Tuna Chill Munknal. You can. It's in Belize. Actually, one of the places that I'd want to go in Belize. This is a cave system in Belize that the Maya believed was a gate to their version of the afterlife called Xibalba. And I've got pictures. And if you thought the last one was pretty, this one is absolutely pretty. So this is Aktun Tunishil Muknal. And you can go to there today. And the name itself roughly translates to the cavern of the crystal lady, or the cavern of the crystal woman, because of this. Isn't Xibalba what they used in the Road to El Dorado? Maybe. I haven't seen that movie in so long I can't remember all of it. But this is the skeleton of probably a late teenaged girl that was almost certainly ritually sacrificed. And because of the atmosphere and the water makeup of the cave, her body has been covered with crystals. So hence the cavern of the crystal woman. The site is actually controlled. You can get permission to go see it, but you have to go with a government-approved tour guide. This is partially because of idiot tourists. One of them dropped a camera on a human skull and crashed it and cracked it open. Another tourist later on stepped on a skull and broke it. There are lots of remains in this cave, by the way. So her name was Crystal, too. Tourist ruin everything. Yeah, so now when you go, if you want to bring a camera, you have to get like a camera permit, and it has to fit within certain criteria. You also have to go with a tour guide. You can't just bust up in this cave. Welcome, David, by the way. So this is the Xibalba is the Mayan underworld, and this cave was pretty clearly a place where people would go get themselves sacrificed to the gods of the underworld. Not the best way to go out. She marks the start of a new age. Well, it could also be that times were bad and somebody just wanted to appease the gods, and they're like, let's go to the gate to the underworld and sacrifice a woman. This unfortunately happens all the time in the ancient world. Human sacrifice is nothing new. So, I hope that has been interesting. I know that we were off to a rough start. Things seem to have calmed down a little bit. Maybe Comcast got their crap together and didn't cut my internet out anymore. New Age crystals? Yeah. I don't think that's the kind of crystal you want to keep at your house, though. The stream was great. The underworld is an interesting place, and the concept of the underworld is a fascinating topic to me. And Enya. I think that this has been one of my favorites to prep for, definitely because I talk about this stuff all the time, and I know that I drive my wife crazy with this weird stuff. And when I found out that I was getting to do a lesson on the underworld, and gates to the underworld specifically, I was like sending text messages to all of my nerdy professor history friends like, hey, do you have pictures of this? And hey, where was that place that you need to go? And hey, what was that thing? And hey, was there this other thing? And anyway, I had a good time just sort of patching all of that stuff together. It was a fun prep. So there is that. Civil War information, just saying, need to know. To be completely, I guess, upfront, I don't know. I just think that the world is escalating in such a way that I don't think we're going to get out of this without violence. And I don't want to be a bummer or a poo-pooer, but the world is a crazy place right now. There are signs. I know I'm being cryptic and vague. I don't know if I necessarily need to get into it. Maybe we could talk about that. I need to call you anyway, Daria, by the way. I'm building a stream on the KGB, and I need some help pronouncing Russian names. All right, so I could be forced into talking to it, though. There are options below if anybody wants to redeem channel points. Now is the time. Come sail away, sail. I am going to head over to the Twitch control panel so that I can open us up a good old-fashioned poll, because we have to pick the next topic for a viewer request stream. So if you remember, we do these every other week, and people get to vote. What are we going to talk about? That's the question. We don't talk about the KGB. That's rule number 1. So there's a little bit of something non-Civil War related. Random history fact, something non-Civil War related. I really need to create a random history fact distributor so I can just kind of poke a button and spit one of those out. Give me a little bit more to go on. Just not, I mean, not every there are lots of things that are not Civil War related. Or I don't know, I could just make something up. Let me see. Here's a random history fact. In ancient Hawaii, prior to know anything about Norwegian history? Oh, I know quite a bit about Norwegian history. I've actually done a lot of research, and I was hoping to get over to Norway. There was a trip planned where maybe doing like Denmark, Sweden, Norway in a group. Didn't end up happening. Random history fact: Norway. That would be capital. Capital's Oslo. At one point in history, there was a giant kingdom where Norway and Denmark were fused, and they beat the junk out of England. So there's a fun one. Who was right, Cap or Iron Man? Why didn't anyone ask Hulk for his opinion? They didn't ask Hulk for his opinion because they had shot Hulk into space. The Illuminati recognized that Hulk was too much of a threat and put him in a pod and shot him into space. That was at the beginning of Planet Hulk story arc. When he came back, he was so ticked off that he started World War Hulk, which was a pretty fun little story arc too. Always Team Iron Man. Steph, I don't think that you would have been Team Iron Man. I don't think you would have. I think that you're Team Cap. But we can argue about that. Anyway, dang Illuminati. This is the Marvel Illuminati, and it's like Namor and Reed Richards and Professor X. You just don't like Cap much. That's okay. You don't have to. So normally what happens when we do viewer request polls is that we carry over the number 2 topic. So whatever number 1 is gets to get covered, but number 2 gets carried over to the next poll to sort of get maybe a next leg. But Kilted Preacher, the mod, decided to drop the 10,000 channel point rewards and just straight out request the KGB episode, which would have been number 2. So what we need are 4 suggestions for what you all want to cover in a viewer request episode. And I will take them as they come. Usually we only pick 3, but I get to pick 4 tonight. What do you all want to talk about? It can be anything. It can be like history from your lifetime. It can be an idea. It can be a topic. Metallurgy? Well, okay. That's kind of a broad one, but sure, why not? History of the Illuminati. Now, Kyle, are you being serious on that one? I mean, there really was a historical group called the Illuminati, but their history is not super fascinating, and it really could only be covered in about 2 minutes. That's more like a random history fact. There was a group of people in the Enlightenment called the Illuminati, and they had a group for about 100 years, and they all disbanded. Or did they? History of astrology. Oh, that's a big one. I just gave it to you for free. Ta-da-da-dun. I don't know what that is, Dory. Is that an actual thing? I might be showing my ignorance here. Ominous notes. Da 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 da. Okay, cool. Because of the Illuminati. Okay. We only have 2. Metallurgy, astrology. These are big, broad topics. You can pick specific things too. Anything from history that you're interested in. Doesn't have to be world. It could be American history. It could be Nazis in the occult. History of Freemasonry. Oh. That's an interesting one. Okay, so there are our 4. So I'm going to hit the button. Did it not start that? Why did it not start that? Do you all see the little poll thing going on? Gotta love that. Gotta love Twitch. Let's try this again. Start poll. There we go. There we go. Okay, so above your chat window, which will probably be over there, you hit the little drop down and cast your vote. Everybody gets to vote. You don't have to be any person in particular. Do your thing. Ba-da-ba-ba-dum-ba-dum-bum. Looks like metalworking is leading. Have we covered alchemy yet? No. It didn't show for you. Oh, that stinks. Can everybody see the poll? Oh, so you okay? It looks like metallurgy is going to win anyway. So it has technically now 4 votes. It doesn't show in the Twitch app. You had to open it in your browser. Ah, I did not know that. Anybody want to snipe a last-second vote in? You have it up on the desktop app? Looks like metallurgy it is. So we're going to talk about metal. And all sorts of metal. I can do that. I'm somehow going to work in samurai swords into that. Somehow. I like metal. All right. So, anybody else want to... So, okay, so the next viewer request stream will be on the KGB because Killed Your Preacher requested it specifically. And then we will do Metallurgy and Highlander. There can be only one. Yeah. All right, ladies and gents. Anybody want to... let's see who's around. Let's see who we can raid. Let's see who we can raid. Neo Realms is now following. Hey, how's it going, Neo Realms? And welcome. And now being hosted. Oh, thanks for the host. Much appreciated. We are actually just
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him.
Welcome, Neo Realmites, and I hope everybody is having a good one. We were actually just about to wrap up, but I'll give you a little bit of a rundown, kind of give you the spill, if you will. So, my name is Shane McInnes, and this is Adventures in History. It is a web series that I sort of came up with. I'm a history teacher in college as a profession, and when COVID hit, I had to come up with a new way to get to my class, and I figured I would try this Twitch thing out, and I liked it so much that I just kept on going. So, every Thursday night and every other Tuesday night, you can tune in for a free discussion on history. I don't call it a lecture. I just like to talk to people, and we make bad jokes, and we crack wise, and we make lame puns and all sorts of things like that. We are on a viewer request tonight. Northern Europe. Random history fact, Northern Europe. Okay, so here's a good one for all of Northern Europe. The group of people that settled in Northern Europe, ethnically speaking, is a much younger group than the people that settled Southern Europe. This has to do mostly because of the fact that when Southern Europe was settled by humans, it was about 40,000 years ago, and we were still in the middle of an ice age. And lots of Northern Europe was, well, just to be flat honest, completely inhospitable. So it wasn't until about 11,500 years ago that parts of Northern Europe opened up. This is at the end of a period of time called the Younger Dryas Age, where the last of the glaciers started receding and Northern Europe became hospitable. So Northern Europe is significantly younger when it comes to being settled than Southern Europe. So there you go. That is a Gundam. Yes, I have several Gundams behind me. I have 2 on each side. So on this side, I have what might be my favorite Gundam. This is Strike Freedom Gundam from Gundam Seed Destiny. Forever. Okay, 008. This is the Confer. You might recognize the Confer. Yeah. On this side, whoop, 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 whoop. If I can move myself right. This is probably my second favorite Gundam. This is the Gundam Heavy Arms Custom from Endless Waltz, Gundam Wing Endless Waltz. And then this guy right here is Death Scythe Custom, also from Gundam Wing Endless Waltz. So I do quite like Gundams. I have more models, but they won't all... I mean, I'm running out of shelf space as it is, so they can't all show up. Gundam Wing is my fave. I love me some Gundam Wing. Oh, heart. Oh, duo. Anyway, how does my brain hold all of this information? I'm a nerd. The rocks the glaciers moved around are still around. Yes, they are. I'd love to go see some of that stuff, too. The sort of big, free-standing boulders that are just out in the middle of the field that the giant glaciers left. You just finished Unicorn. I haven't finished watching that one yet. I haven't finished. I watched, like, the first episode and a half, and I was doing it. I was trying to watch them, like, right when I was getting tired, and I don't think that I gave them enough attention. I need to go back and start that over. I really do like Gundam, though. I've seen way too many Gundams, probably. But I was saying about the show here, we try to have fun with history. We nerd out, we geek out. It is not your stereotypical boring history lecture. I don't even like using the word lecture. We have conversations and everybody hangs out. Tonight is a viewer request tonight, and we were talking about gates to the underworld. Gates to the underworld. And various places in the ancient world that people thought were actual gates to the underworld. Everything you know about history, you make up. It's not your favorite story, but it has amassing animation. Yeah, the animation was beautiful in Unicorn. It really was a cool stream for real. I can show you a couple of the photographs. I've been to a lot of places in the world, and I've been to a lot of ancient places. So, zoom out. Let me go back to a couple places that I've been to. This is a place in Turkey. This little hole right here is a hole to the underworld. It's part of this larger temple complex. This is a cave that is a gate to the underworld. It's right on the other side of this big temple. This is a temple that would have been dedicated to the god Pluto, or Hades if you're looking at the Greeks. This is a big temple complex in Greece that's called the Necromantion. This is sort of the big vault cavern that would have been considered the abode of the dead. So we talked about some of that stuff. The words that you see below me, Aktun Tunashkil Mukna, is a cave in Belize that the Maya people believed were a gate to their underworld called Xibalba. So there's a little bit of a rundown of some of the stuff that we've covered. This Thursday, if you want to come back around next Thursday, well, I guess this coming Thursday, 2 days from now, at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to be talking about Persia. One of my favorite ancient topics, the Achaemenid Persians and their expansion to conquer basically all of the Near Eastern world and create the world's largest empire that had existed at the time. My buried bust may be an interest to the underworld. 83% of statistics are made up. I thought it was only 74. So welcome everybody, and I hope that this has given you a little bit of a taste of what Adventures in History is like, and you are more than welcome to come back around. I hope everybody has a good one. We were actually just thinking about doing a raid, and I was going to say we might want to raid Neo Realms, but that would be weird to like raid in ourselves. It would be like raidception, like a raid within a raid. Okay, so we have a couple of people that are hanging around. We have Art of Lee, friend of the channel. We have Cave Geek Art, friend of the channel. Let's see what Art of Lee is doing. What is Lee up to? Lee is playing Red Dead Redemption 2. What is Cave Geek doing? Cave Geek is working on designing digital mountain ranges. Anybody have opinions? Does that sound interesting to anybody? Want to do a raid? Want to do a raid? Yeah? Want to do a raid maybe? Huh? Raid. Comfort and Adam? Are they on? I guess they are on. Twitch is weird. Like, Twitch won't show me everybody that is online. Twitch will not show me everyone that is online. And what's really weird is that I can go to...
I'm kind of, as we approach Infinite, there's a lot of great creators that, in
Who are you
addition
talking
to everyone...
to? I don't want you to talk to me. Twitch will show me one group of people in the command center, and it'll show me another group of people, like if I just go to my dashboard, and then if I use OBS, it'll show me another group of people. So who the devil? Let's go raid Comfort and Adam. We've never actually raided them before. They're cool. They do art stuff. They are very kindred spirits. They are definitely going to be in our realm of what we might consider comfortable nerdy culture. They do really great art. They have a couple of series that they do on their own. They're currently working on one of their comic book series. So let's go raid them. And we will, if I can figure out where the button is. Where's the button? I feel a lot better at the end of the stream than I did at the beginning. Once we actually got moving, things turned out okay. I had a lot of trouble with Comcast and the internet cutting out literally as soon as I started trying to do anything tonight. Nerds, yeah. Let's go raid Comfort and Adam. Alright, everybody. I'm gonna hit the button. We're gonna start this raid up. Our cry is adventure. And if you have them, make sure you throw the adventure hat emotes into the chat. Thank you all for coming by. Thank you all for sticking with me when the technology was being crazy. I really, really appreciate it. I hope everybody has a pleasant afternoon, good night, and I hope that I will see you all again on Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to talk about Persia. See you all around. Let's go do it.
Importantly, this is